All right. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Processing with Sam and Malik, a weekly take on life through the lens of husbands, fathers, Philly sports fans, and most importantly, believers. As always, this episode is brought to you by Sam's Community TV, creating content to establish a community through genuine relationship building. And before we start tonight's episode, I want to ask that you please make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification button. Subscription button keeps you connected to our community, and the notification button will notify you anytime one of our episodes are airing because we would love for you to join. All we ask is that you be willing to cam up. Now, if you do enjoy the episode while you're watching, please go ahead and hit the like button so we can conquer good old Al G rhythm. Malik, how are we doing, man?
Hey man, I don't know if you've seen the forecast, but it's a hurricane down here, or it's been a hurricane down here. So if I apologize if I've got connectivity issues, or if I look like all of a sudden I'm trying to duck like a tree branch or whatever it is. But it's been wild the last couple of days. Texas and this whole area, between millions of cats being without power and flooded out. But thankfully we're okay. We had power down for a couple of days, but we're back and running, and things are slowly kind of getting back to whatever normal is in these situations. How about yourself, man?
Listen, definitely not experiencing what you guys are. You know, we've let's see. No, well, we're dealing with the heat wave back here, back in the East Coast.
Yeah.
So it's been high 90s, no rain. So it's so fascinating how the whole continent is getting hit with sort of extreme weather, and it's all different, but it's all extreme weather. So thankfully we haven't had any power outages, and we're not dealing with that kind of situation. We would love some precipitation, but obviously, you all can hold all that extra that you got going on. Obviously,
Hey,
our prayers are for everyone down there.
Yeah.
Wait, say it again.
Just go crack that fire hydrant, man. Just go ahead and crack that fire hydrant, man. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what you need to go
Understood.
do. I'm pretty sure
Hey,
that'd be like 73rd on the list of Philly police problems. So you'd be all right.
Yeah, agreed. So this is what we're gonna do. This stream, obviously, Malik is sort of communicating that they are in the remnants of Hurricane Burrow, and so this, we might call this the struggle stream. But for you folks, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this struggle stream for you because it's important. Now, granted, we're in sort of like a summer session, so we've kind of had 2 weeks in between shows, and maybe that's something that might play out for us throughout the summer, so stay tuned. However, we've had a lot of activity. There's a lot that's been going on over the last 2 weeks, and what I would like to start with is the fact that there was history made in this NBA draft. And I'm also curious, outside of the historic events of this NBA draft, who do we think has made the best offseason moves? Now, we'll table the Sixers all together, but that's kind of how I wanted to kind of kick things off. Your Los Angeles Lakers with the 55th pick in the NBA draft.
Wait.
In the NBA draft, selected one Bronny James Jr. Let's start there, man. Let's start with the 55th pick of the draft. Because obviously all the top pick, I don't even know if I can pronounce his name. So let's start with the 55th pick.
I'm not even sure I remember who the top pick is at this point in time. It's some brother from France. Listen, so are you asking me if I have a problem with LeBron James' son being drafted to the Lakers?
I'm asking you, what are your thoughts on it altogether? I'm not trying to frame it one way or another. I'm saying that it was history. What do you think about the fact
very plainly? Listen, very plainly. I hope one day to be so good at something, so great at something, that I can dictate free agency. I can dictate roster slots. I can dictate what other teams do. This dude put out a memo, or Rich Paul put out a memo, said, we are going to Australia if you draft us. So I hope to be so great, and I have not a single problem.
Malik, he said, I pity the fool. I pity the fool.
No, listen,
he became Mr. T in free agency.
He basically, listen, I got no problem. I got no problem, like less than no problem with the fact that LeBron James' son is in the NBA playing for the Lakers, and good for them. Like, look, anyway, I know we're not talking about free agency yet or trade moves and all that stuff yet. Well, I'm sure we'll get there quickly. I saw the other day that Thanasis asked for a trade. Thanasis asked for a trade. Duh. Listen, if nepotism is a real thing, right? Thanasis is on a roster. He asked for a trade request. Milwaukee was like, yes, please. Like, I know they couldn't wait to do that, right? So we're really going to sit here and even debate. LeBron James moves the needle. The Lakers, we're talking about the 13th, 14th guy. He is never going to at all contribute to a playoff team. If he gets on there and develops in 2 to 3 years, fine. Absolutely. But I got no problem with it. It happens all the time. All the time. I didn't know the NBA is doing some LinkedIn type stuff, like first connection, second connection, but I'm with it. Glad for them. His success certainly begats the opportunity for him. But Bronny earned it because he's had the heart issue. He's grown up under that name. He went and played ball at college. Regardless of his performance, he still withstood all of that, and he stood tall through it all. So I'm here for it. Good for him.
Brother, I couldn't agree with you more. I think there's been a lot of discussion around whether or not Bronny warranted a roster spot, warranted a selection. And the simple answer is, of course he did, because his father is LeBron James.
Yeah.
And he obviously is a player who has talent enough to be on the floor. He was able to go to the combine and his measurables stacked up, so he has the vertical jump that shows you that he's an elite athlete. He was able to knock certain shots down and do different agility drills where you can rank him amongst other persons that are in the combine. And so his performance alone shows you his work ethic. Yes, it wasn't a traditional path, but that's okay. And there's so many other people who succeed in this world we live in who have not taken a traditional path. And rarely do we balk at it the way the whole world seemed to be balking at Bronny getting this opportunity.
I love everything about it. I love everything about it.
If you even peel the layers back, the onion back a little bit, and when you think about, again, using the word nepotism, when it comes to professional sports, that's how the whole thing is run and managed. He's playing for an organization where how many series have we watched where Dr. Buss was very adamant about how his children will be involved in the Lakers dynasty. And it had nothing to do with their acumen. It had nothing to do with their background. It had simply the fact that it was his children and he was going to grow them in the organization. Granted, he wants them to be successful. He wants to give them all the tools that they need, but it wasn't because of anything that they had accomplished other than their relationship with him that gave them the advantage. So this is something that we
you just said it.
Yeah.
You just said it. You talked about in organizations and opportunities that fall to children, family members, and so on. Jerry Jones's son, I think it is, Stephen Jones,
yes, it
is vice president of the organization. Right. And so the idea that, whether or not he's a football person or whatever the term you want to use is, it's the fact that Jerry Jones, for whatever I may feel about him, has done such an exemplary job as a business person that he has had that opportunity that he's now able to pass it to his son. And how he gets there, listen, I mean, he's there. That's it. And whatever necessarily credentials that I may feel like, we're not using my skill. I hope, Sam, that in 5, 10 months, years, whatever, that I'm able to be in a position where I can leave my children something where they don't have to actually worry about anything other than showing up. That's really where it's at. So go for that. I'm good with it.
And I think you made a great point because you said it's because of his success that put him in this position. And that's the reality. The reality is because someone has achieved so much to such a degree that they have the ability to put someone in a position where they can grow, as opposed to requiring an expert to sort of save their business, right? Like you
Right.
could be a person where, as a CEO, you're like, man, if I don't get the best COO in this building or best CFO, we are going to struggle. I don't have the luxury of trying to grow someone in this role. I need someone who is seasoned, who understands the landscape, environment, et cetera, because there's some things that we have to give
And let me add this too. Let me add this too, because this is actually, I don't know if this is the conversation I've actually heard in this sense.
Okay.
Zaire Smith, Jaleel Okafor, Nerlens Noel, right? All first round picks. Everything we think about with the NBA is you get into the NBA, you have a guaranteed contract, you're going to be an NBA player for a very long time. If you go back and look at recent drafts, if you just go back and look at the remaining free agency list right now, you'll see a lot of guys here like, yo, he ain't got a job. He's not working. So we have, and I can't even tell you half the dudes who were in this past draft's first round. We're not talking about dudes who are the back half of the second. We're talking about guys in the first round who don't make it through their next contract, get to their fourth year, right? Guys who don't have their option picked up. Let's not necessarily suggesting that Bronny is going to be going to be a contributor. What I can say is that his father knows the game. He's the smartest, if not the smartest basketball players ever. We know that because of the pressure and scrutiny, he's going to work. Okay, so if I'm going to take a chance at the 55th pick, it's going to be on a guy with pedigree and who's going to have certain intuition that's going to be honed and sharpened by his dad and the pressure that comes around being LeBron James' son. I'm completely good with it. Completely good with it.
You know what's even funnier about the whole thing with Bronny? When he went to the combine, after his combine performance, they ranked him the 54th best player in the combine. And I remember Stephen A. Smith actually made a statement about it because it's like, okay, you rank him the 54th best player, and the Lakers had the 55th pick. You know what I mean? So it's almost like it was a value pick for the Lakers, right?
Oh yeah,
because at the 55th pick, they got value because they got the 54th best player. You know what I'm saying? So.
Like who was the
that's all to the GM.
What was the young bull who was on the Sixers who got traded to the Celtics? The guard.
Oh, first of all, that's gonna hurt because I think he's gonna be somebody that they put against Tyrese Maxey in years to come.
If he can shoot you on the floor.
Right. He was on Tennessee. He was a freshman out of Tennessee.
Jaden Springer.
Yep. Jaden Springer. Yep.
Listen. So can he be Jaden Springer? Right?
I think so. Yep.
Right. Can he be Jaden Springer? We're talking about a similar build. We're talking about probably knowledge. Listen, he may have gotten the opportunity and the scrutiny because of his name, but the dude has gifts in some way that's going to allow for him to now see where he's at.
Agreed.
And you know what? Maybe listen, the fact that he got a 4-year guarantee contract or whatever it is, or $6 million, he doesn't need money as it is right now. So the fact that that's happening is also a moot and completely irrelevant point. He doesn't need that money. He just wants the opportunity. So I'm here for it, man. Look, if the Nats, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was going to ask, being that he doesn't need the money, why do the 4 years guaranteed at 7.9? But I mean, again, it's in my opinion, it is fine. It's fine because you're trying to lock up LeBron James for 4 years. So you lock up his son for 4 years. It's the game you play. It's the dance you have to dance. And to act like people don't understand it, it's very bizarre to me because it happens all of the time. And I just find it fascinating that people are attempting to call LeBron James out in a way that if they weren't in the same exact position, they wouldn't do everything in their best interest to replicate that. I mean,
it's nonsense. It's nonsense.
The boy gets to stay home. He lives in LA. He gets drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers. Like who would not wish this for themselves? But yet all of a sudden we're going to try to, call LeBron out because he's using his cachet, using whatever he has for the best interest of his family. And the Lakers will be fine. It's the 55th pick. If they were relying on Bronny James to get him over the hump this year, that's the Lakers' fault. But that's not what's happening. He's a developmental player. Everyone knows it. He's going to have his opportunity to develop. I think playing with to put father and son together on the same team, I just think is going to be an experience that we will look back on, and I think those who had an issue with it will feel foolish when it's all said and done.
They sound foolish right now. They sound foolish now. We like literally. Sam, you and I have talked through the playoffs. We've talked online about we need 9 dudes for a playoff run, basically. If you go beyond that, you're probably a little too thin. You want to prioritize certain matchups, certain lineups, and certain guys. We're talking about the 13th, 14th, 15th dude on our roster. Seriously. And if he can get beyond that, great. But realistically, like, what are we tripping over? He's a better Jaden Springer. He might be.
Agreed. I just think that we, as a society, we want to be offended. We want to find something offensive because we live in a day and age where our feelings get so much credence that they feel like the world is supposed to acquiesce to how we feel about things. So here's an opportunity to express our feelings and expect the world to like respond. And I just think it's utterly ridiculous. I just think that
I'm gonna go further than that. We've got this thing, and I know I'm in the struggle stream, so I apologize if there's a delay or if I look like I'm out here in a windstorm.
I'll keep resetting and saying, folks, we're in the struggle stream.
We're in the struggle stream, right? Shout out to Mother Nature. She always wins. Listen, the idea that fairness is necessarily going to be always at play or present in a decision. LeBron James can tell you he grew up in a single family home, right? He grew up where his mother worked and he didn't have the opportunities of certain other kids who may have come up through certain routes. He had to do those things, right? And so, like, where was fairness for him, right? And so now that he's gotten himself in a position where he's got not just his play, but his friends in power positions to dictate and allow for his son to now benefit from that, isn't this what you do? Like, this is what you do for your children. So, and in some cases, Stephen Jones or Thanasis.
All right, so we're going to have to talk about that for a second. But this is the blueprint. This is the life.
We need a 4. We need a 4. Just saying.
Yeah, we do. So, all right, we'll get there. We'll get there. All right, because
go ahead,
we're going to hit this episode fast and hard. All right, so history was made. You and I, at least, we now talked about it. That we are exactly on the same page in terms of congratulating the James family for this opportunity that they are experiencing. It is something that everybody should dream to be able to do for their children.
Absolutely.
I don't know why we see this in a negative way at all. How many players actually make NBA teams at the 50th pick? I mean, this is the fact that
it's to be celebrated.
Want to automatically ascribe a different level of value to the 55th pick for the Lakers to suggest that was someone's opportunity. You know, he's taking someone's opportunity is just utterly ridiculous. We know.
Shout out to Black Jobs, man. He's taking black jobs. Just, you know, that's it. Ronnie James is taking black jobs, man. That's what it is. Ronnie James. That's why people are really mad. See, you ain't want to go there. I'll go there real quick. But it's black jobs, man. James is taking black jobs. You know what I mean? I guess he's not black enough. I don't know, but that must be where all the indignation is. He's taking black jobs. That's it.
Yeah, that's what's going on here.
That's why people are just indignant about this, man. Black jobs at the 54th pick or 55th pick, excuse me.
So as we think about what the other teams have done, the biggest offseason moves, I guess for the Bucks, it might be the trading of Giannis. What? How do you even say his name? Thanasis, right? That might be the biggest offseason move if they move on from Thanasis. If they move on from Thanasis, and that might be their biggest offseason move because.
You got a full season. No. You got a full season. Oh, Lord Jesus.
That's a team that needs help and cannot afford to just burn a roster spot. With
they got a full season. They got a full season in Doc Rivers' system now. got a full season in the system, and they're going to be ready to go and hit the ground running.
Wait a minute. How do we not connect the dots? One season with Doc and Thanasis once out?
Stop. That's not it. Doc eats Greek food, dog. Stop playing. Come on. He's good.
Thanasis has been there for what? How many years? One season. Listen, he picks his brother's nose on the bench. There's no job too small for Thanasis when it comes to how he serves that Bucks organization. But now he is demanding a trade?
Nah, man. Look, he sees cats. He sees cats getting the bag. He sees dudes out here working on their game. Thanasis has got a soft touch around the elbow. Like, he's good. He's good. Look, let's get to the Sixers though, for real. Let's get to the Sixers. We talk about all these other dudes and the moves that really.
So before we go to the Sixers,
go for
is
it.
there a team that has made in your opinion, what outside of the Sixers, who has made the biggest offseason moves in terms of bolstering their roster, putting it in a position where you think that, okay, this team is really going for it? I think that they might be one in the Final Four, potentially.
Oh, well, I think there's two. Yeah, there's two. I think there's two approaches I would answer that question. One, in terms of Final Four, the immediate trade conversation. The immediate offseason conversation goes right to the Thunder. Right? They add Caruso, they add Hartenstein. They retain pretty much all of their assets without giving up any flexibility down long term. I think you probably still have some questions about the ability to shoot the ball a little bit, right? Chet's obviously dynamic, but Dort and Jalen Williams, there's some questions maybe around their ability to kind of create. Shea is going to be dominating the ball, so I'm thinking they'll be fine, but you're going to need somebody else. Caruso is going to be a beast on defense, but in terms of a secondary ball handler off of additional action, I think you might struggle there a little bit, so we'll see. But the thing that I'm really interested in seeing, and this is not really the Final Four. I think in terms of your Final Four, your finals contenders, it's the Thunder. I'm really curious to see what the Spurs look like now, because I actually really think Wemby sooner than later is going to be a MVP candidate.
Yeah,
like within the next year or two.
Yeah, I kind
of. And so you look at him with Chris Paul. All of a sudden, you got like a legit point guard. So now I got a dude who is all world, who's going to have a summer playing in France, right? Who's going to, in the Olympics, is going to go out there and try to just state his claim like he's the next guy. And now you got a point guard. Like, you got a real dude out there. It'll be fascinating to see him.
You know what? That's a good call, man. I think first of all, let's start with, I agree that the Thunder, to me, have absolutely put themselves in prime position to represent the Western Conference next year. I do understand that Giddey being a secondary ball handler is something they're going to have to address.
Yeah,
I agree with that 1,000%. However, I think the toughness that Caruso has, the versatility that he offers, Hartenstein, that push shot that he can get off, I think the pick and roll with him and Shea is just going to be lethal. Like, he killed Joel Embiid because Joel couldn't get off his feet on that shot.
Right.
So it's like, if you're going to get that 7-footer who has an automatic push shot, the ability to just catch and shoot and pop right there, he's a maniac on the glass. So Chet Holmgren can still focus on blocking shots and know that he has a dog next to him to get the boards. That team looks really complete. So I'm a huge fan of what the Thunder have done. And it's funny because that was the team I laid a wager down plus 7,000 going into last year in terms of their odds of representing the Western Conference Finals. And, as the season progressed, the odds changed considerably.
Dramatically,
all of a sudden it's like, wow, this team is here. And I was like, I kind of thought they could be.
Hey, let's put real quick. Let's put a pin in this conversation because I do want to have a what are we going to maybe bet on conversation that we actually track.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, because I definitely am with you. When we're talking about the NFL coming up in about a month, right? NBA is going to be not far behind. We're going to be starting again soon. And then maybe the Phillies in the postseason too. So we could have
I think I really okay. Let's jump into our team, man, because I think I might even do like a parlay that includes all three teams in the finals. I just listen. Phillies won again today. It's not a topic, but I'll remove this one. Phillies won again today. just beat the Dodgers.
Jumped 60 wins, yeah.
4-3, first team to 60 without Bryce Harper in the lineup, without JT Realmuto in the lineup. This team just finds ways to get it done. I agree with you that they'll probably try to bolster the roster, the lineup going into the trade deadline. This is the team to beat. There's no doubt about it, man. Like there's something about this team that you just feel really, really good about. They don't seem to fear the moment. They got studs, man. They got stars, and they have guys that are capable of stepping up any given night. And I think other teams fear us.
Real quick, what I love, and right before we jumped on here, I was watching post game real quick, and Alec Bohm was asked about the team, their mentality. Things are great, but our eye is towards the back of the season, towards the end of the season. So the fact that they've been successful is cool. That's all well and good. They are squarely focused on, hey, September and October, we are just ready to go, like now. And I love the idea that, hey, look, you can celebrate us. You can put us in your power rankings. You can talk about what we're going to do at the end of the month, the trade deadline. Miss me with all of that. We are only here for September and October. Let's go.
I love it because they know that Malik Coleman only cares about them in September and October. That the regular season
we live, hollow. Eat, and breathe these dudes. You serious?
Like I said in a very early stream, that I'm unwilling to limit this team based off of just their postseason success. That what I'm watching is something special, and I don't know how many times I'm going to get Philly teams like this in my lifetime. So to not appreciate what you're seeing just because they may or may not win the whole thing, I just think would be a travesty. Like this is just something special, you know. So
and I agree with you. I'm just gonna say this though. I do think they think like that though.
Oh, that's fair, and they should think that way. And I think that's what also endears the fans to them because they get it. They get it. They have the big picture.
I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I do think they like. I think it matters. Like you heard, I know we're all over the place, right? But you like Kelly Oubre when he resigned. He talked about, you know, I came back here because I fell in love with the game here because of the fans, because of the team, and what we're doing, whatever it is. I think there's a little bit of that with the Phillies. Like I think the Phillies, when you see Trey Turner getting standing ovations and the way that Rhys Hoskins was treated a couple of weeks ago, right? I think these guys know that Philly is special. The Phillies team is special. And that they're looking at this thinking to themselves, like, look, man, I got a chance to do something and kind of put a capstone, and that's in October. So let's go do it.
And here's the thing about the Phillies, especially one, their ability to attract the big time free agents. Like Trey Turner coming here was huge. It's not even that him coming here, it being the worst kept secret in baseball that he wants to come to Philadelphia.
He was coming here,
right?
yeah.
Like that part was just like so surprising. But I think the other piece, when I think about the Phillies and the Sixers, is that I agree in their similarities where, well, let me stay with the Phillies. I think the reason that baseball players are falling in love with Philadelphia is because the way our team responds to baseball is really unlike any other city, right?
Yeah.
Like in football, you can have rabid fans in a lot of cities when it comes to football. Like, we would like to feel that we differentiate ourselves, but do we really? Like, think about the Bills Mafia. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a hard-nosed fan base. You know, so it's like they're hard. The Raiders, right? Like, that's a traveling fan base. They're everywhere. So there are many teams
right. I get your point.
Where it's like they have. I mean, even I hate to say this name, the Dallas Cowboys. Their fans are everywhere. Like, if we're being honest, they exist in every city. So that much, I think, where there's parity in terms of fandom in certain sports, but when it comes to baseball, it's like Philadelphia has differentiated itself from the rest of
that's a good point.
baseball in terms of how the fans respond to this team. It's like watching it. It's like football fans at a baseball game. And if I'm a baseball player, I'd be jacked up for that because usually it's like it's the lazy game. You know, it's like people who are going there just to kill time, eat popcorn, eat peanuts. They're not cheering. They're not standing up. They're not using their vocal cords. They're not going home hoarse. You know, they're going home refreshed because they took a nap in that seventh inning stretch. You know what I'm saying? It's like the most relaxing thing you do is go to a baseball game. But you know what's like, you got to get ready to go to a baseball game.
You know what's fascinating about them is that I think you make a great point. But the other interesting kind of parallel between the Phillies and the Sixers is that the Phillies have actually built this team through free agents. Like this team, when we had Cliff Lee and we had Roy Halladay, they were initially trades, right? They were big deals. They were big deals that we grew Utley, we grew Howard, we grew Rollins and Hamels. But those trades kind of helped us kind of make the team what they were in the late aughts and early part of the decade. The Phillies now, they went out, and when they were struggling, they got Harper was obviously the big fish. They traded for Real Muto, but they signed Schwarber as a free agency. They signed Castellanos, so regardless of what you think of him, that's free agency, right? They signed Zach Wheeler, right? They went out and then they signed Trey Turner. The Phillies, probably more than any other city in this, other team in this city, had probably been the most attractive free agent destination. Like, I know AJ Brown was a trade, right? And guys that we've gotten this past year, like Devin White, I'm looking forward to seeing him. But Devin White was kind of diminished based on what he was when he was with Tampa. I think the Phillies have been the biggest, brightest light in terms of outsiders looking at the city. I guess probably until we look at PGA, right? So when you look at the NBA free agency, the Sixers, Jimmy Butler was a trade. Tobias Harris was a trade. In the NBA, you don't really have a whole lot of dudes move via free agency, right? I can't think of the last dude off the top of my head was Durant. Durant was traded to the Suns. I'm trying to think of who signed. LeBron was traded to LeBron signed with the Lakers? Kawhi might have been it. Yeah.
So here's the interesting about the Sixers, because I love where we're taking this conversation. If you remember what the process was supposed to yield, you get generational talents by picking at the top of the draft in order to attract free agents.
Yeah.
You get generational talent, and then the rest will come. Our generational talents are Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah.
Those are our dudes. And now you're looking at a Paul George. Granted, I don't know. I appreciate the fact that Paul George chose Philadelphia. I know there's money involved. I get it. It's like, hey, we paid him. Why wouldn't he come? Because he still had other options. That's why. You know what I mean? And so for him to still choose after 14 years in the NBA to play in Philadelphia, it's not like he doesn't know what Philadelphia is.
Don't diminish the conversation. He left the West Coast, right? He's from that way. He could have gone to the Lakers. I'm sure they could have figured out something. He could have forced a sign and trade from the Warriors. You got Draymond Green talking about that, right? He moved across the country, right, to choose a city that he's got no experience with. Now, I know his wife is from the New York area, no ties. So he did that. And he did that based on the fact that you got this generational talent that he believes in. So while we look at Embiid and be like, yo, he's always injured in the playoffs, he looks like he's out of shape, yada, yada. Paul George, who was the biggest unquestioned free agent acquisition this period, looked at it and said, yo, he's a dude I want to go play with, and I'm for it.
And he wants to play with Maxey. And here's the beautiful thing about this. Okay, so did you see what the Sixers did for Maxey in terms of that?
Yeah, the museum is incredible. The museum is incredible.
And you had Rich Paul, his agent, say, in my 23 years, I've never seen a presentation like this for a player, ever. Here's why I believe it was important for the Sixers to do what they did for Tyrese when they did it. He bet on himself.
Yeah.
He bet on himself, and he also had to trust the organization.
That last piece, yep.
So betting on himself is one thing, because you can just win by getting the bag, but he had to trust the organization was going to do right by him.
Yeah.
And I think by providing him with a presentation, which was one of one in the history of the NBA, a one-of-one presentation, to me, lets Tyrese Maxey know it doesn't matter who we bring in. This is how we feel about you. This is how this city feels about you.
Yeah.
You are here for the long haul. We're bringing in some mature superstar guys who are going to have their own cachet, but we see you. You see what I'm saying? And I think it was important for him to be established with Paul George coming in town.
I think it is no small fact that Embiid calls him the franchise, right? Because I do believe that with all the Ben Simmons and then the James Harden drama and all of the whoever's going to be moving into this next role spot, if Maxey wasn't the ascending star that he became, And we kind of saw his progression, right? And I've been a fan of him, but who knew that he was going to take like a potential All-NBA leap, right? If he doesn't do that, I don't know that Embiid is excited about coming here, right? I don't know where we're going to be without Maxey, to be honest with you. He probably saved the Sixers. He did.
Agreed.
He probably saved
was that second star we always needed.
He's legit.
He was the person that we have been looking for forever to pair with Joel Embiid. And
Yeah.
Joel Embiid identified him in his rookie year and called him the franchise.
Yeah.
So, and you see the organization treating him like a franchise player.
You
have Joel Embiid saying, he is the best teammate I've ever had. Like, those words alone. And then at the end of it, Tyrese is like, hey, big fella, I hope I don't let you down. And then he drops a real tear after saying that. It's like, I'm sold.
Yeah, there's no question about it.
I'm sold.
No, you know what I was sold? You know what I was sold?
This is not the Ben Simmons fake, relationship with people and all posturing and all that stuff. Like, this is genuine.
I'm gonna tell you what I was sold.
Like, yo, it's me and you, man.
Listen, when they pulled out the Iverson era black Maxey jersey, listen, that's when I was sold. Yeah.
That's like, yo, we see you. And he had the cornrows.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
And he switched his hairstyle, so he got cornrows this year. Bro, rock some cornrows, fam. Now we know what's on.
That I told you, we are in the best era of Sixers basketball ever, right? And I think that right now, first we gotta give a hat tip to Morey, because it's no small thing to go out and be like, yo, I've only got 2 dudes on this team. Right? We're going to fill out a whole roster. There's a lot that had to go right. There's a lot that had to go right. And he pulled a straight, whatever your poker term is, he pulled the straight. Like, he did it. So I don't think this is the final roster.
It's masterful. No, I don't. And that's the beautiful part. Like, he's not done. And I think we know he's not done, because he's going to use this scenario with KJ Martin, in everyone's opinion, where he's going to give him this balloon payment to sort of like, first of all, the way he's managing the cap is just, it's artful. He's going to get 2 more. It is, man. I'm gonna tell you, Roseman and Morey, I think they might go. If Morey really gets his teeth in this city and like stays here, the fact that he was you got to remember, he inherited Al Horford, he inherited Josh Richardson. Like, that was the team he had, the clunkiest team ever assembled, where they just gave everybody max dollars and none of it made sense. He's got to win. He's got to win before he gets the Roseman status, though. Yeah. Oh yeah. But listen, this iteration of the team. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about why this team is going to be so much different than any team we've ever had. You got dogs now. You have legitimate dogs that can go get it, that aren't afraid to get it, that respect Joel Embiid, and at the same time have competed hard against Joel Embiid and aren't afraid of any moments. Caleb Williams, to me, is the signature signing of this whole thing, because he only plays one brand of basketball. And the fact that he's on a 4-year deal, to me, that's a culture decision. They're saying, we're tired of getting these guys that have one skill, and if that one skill isn't working for them that night, then they're useless on the floor. Yeah. We're just going to get ballers. Guys that if the shot's not going, they can make it up in other ways. Their value is more than just their ability to hit an open shot. Do we need open shot makers? Of course we do. But we have them too. We got Eric Gordon. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have Paul George shoots 45% from catch and shoot. Are you kidding me? Yeah. The most elite wing we have now is a 45% catch and shoot shooter from the 3-point line. That's my mind is still having a hard time wrapping itself around that. Like, I'm telling you, if we can use the KJ Martin contract and somehow finagle that to bring in like a Dorian Finney-Smith, that I'm saying we can run against anybody. However, hold on one second though. So there's two. I love the Caleb Martin signing. I was shocked that they were actually able to get that done. Right. I love the Eric Gordon. I like Drummond as a backup big. He's going to be reliable, and it's a shame that he ever left. Embiid is obviously excited about him. Drummond has talked ad nauseum about how Embiid recruited him. So I'm excited about the fact that he's involved doing those types of things behind the scenes. I would love to see, and I don't know what the cap situation is going to allow for. I'm not sure how they treat minimum contracts. I would love to see a dude like Lonnie Walker. Ooh. I would love to see a dude like Lonnie Walker, and a guy who off the bench, right? Or maybe he slots in. He's a 6'4", 6'5" guard. He's from the Reading area, right?
So he's familiar with the whole culture, the whole Northeast thing, whatever it is. He was out in Los Angeles. He was with the Spurs. He's moved around a little bit. He's a bucket, not a reliable shooter, but at a guy with this size and the length that he has, I like the ability for him with a Maxey, with a Paul George, with Embiid's ability to obviously get out and face up, for this guy to come downhill. And so Lonnie Walker would be a dude who, if they could go out and add him to this group, right, as a 15-minute dude, go out and go get me a few extra offensive possessions or whatever it is, initiate, go hard, draw fouls, create. I would love to see a dude like that. And then KJ Martin doesn't have the size, but we do need a dude at the 4 who can take some of the tension off of an Embiid, right? So
agreed, but ideally you would want a spacer there. That's the
we would. I agree completely. Completely. I don't know who that name is yet.
It's Finney Smith. That's who it is. That's the guy, man. He's aggressive. He's a stretch 4. He does all the dirty work. He runs the floor. He can get downhill on the break. He's a good decision maker. He won't freeze it like a deer in headlights if the ball hits him like Tobias, where it's like, where am I going with the ball? Nice. Because I'm catching it in transition. So to me, he is that kind. I think he's a perfect complement for this team. I think rebounding is something we're going to have to deal with, especially getting wins throughout the regular season. When it comes to the playoffs, I just think you need guys with attitude, in my opinion. But I think when it comes to the regular season, you might want to make it easier by having guys that have that kind of advantage. I think we're going to get so many different iterations of the Sixers in terms of various lineups that they use. One, because you're trying to ensure Joel Embiid is fresh in the playoffs. I think the fact that you drafted a guy with the 40th pick in the kid Bona, I'm watching him right now. I'm like, this kid's a player. He's got to see time on the court. So to me, the Sixers have some options where if Joel Embiid can't go, you can still put a roster together that should win you a game on any given night.
There's no question about that.
That's why the Paul George piece is so significant, because we know we don't need Joel to play 82. I don't even think 65 is the number. I don't think we care about a minimum at this point. I think the whole goal is have him available in the playoffs. Granted, seeding will matter. We don't want to just roll it out and play anybody. We're not trying to put ourselves in a position where it's Boston in the first round because we just didn't care about the regular season.
Right.
But at the same time, I think that when it comes to the playoffs, we're going to be a very difficult out, regardless of who we're playing. Now.
So your question is, is PG 8 enough? Enough for what?
Right. So we landed a big whale. Is he enough to say that the Sixers are contenders?
Contender?
And maybe the question isn't framed properly because it's more than PG. Again, we only have 2 people on the team. So do the Sixers have enough to be considered a contender after landing a Paul George and signing the others?
I would expect the Sixers to be able to compete, to be in a 2-3 space. I still think, depending on what happens with Kristaps Porzingis, right? Because Kristaps is out for like 6 months or something crazy like that. So he matters, right? His health matters. So I don't think that Boston's going to have the same 60-win season or whatever they had going into last year. But I expect the Sixers to be right there towards top 2-3. It might be a disappointment depending on Embiid's health, what that looks like for them. But I expect him to be there. And to be honest with you, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm actually really excited to see Ricky Council, right? So
me too.
I'm excited to see Ricky Council because you talked about dogs. Ricky Council looked like he just did a bid in prison. Like, you don't know how big this dude is, but I'm telling you, this bull's out here about to snatch everything, yo. Everything.
I think having a Ricky Council like paired with Caleb Martin potentially for 4 years, like the type of player he can become for us, he's already fearless. He's already fearless. And when he goes to the rack, he goes with reckless abandon. I mean, the kid to me I think he can blossom into a real player because it seems like he really gets after it. But it's the fact that his mentality is just so rare, and he's willing to put his body on the line in a way that it's like, you got to find ways to get this guy on the court, man.
Yeah.
It's just going to make life easier for everybody else because he's going to do so much. But
so again, hold on, Sam, hold on.
Okay.
So again, soon, probably like, I don't know, before August or maybe in August, we need to really have what is going to be our parlay bets for the season conversation. So
listen, my parlay bet might be way before August.
Well, we need, like, I might, because, in Texas down here, we do a whole lot of nonsense with guns and other things, but we can't bet. So I might need to put a little something in your Venmo. You know what I mean?
I got you.
Because I'm on that same page with you.
Listen, so Jared McCain.
Yeah.
Out of Duke. What do you think?
I think the dude is clearly skilled, right? He's clearly skilled. He is. I know there was a lot of conversation about his personality and whatever that may mean, his expression, representation. I don't really care about any of that stuff. What I am glad, right, is that you mentioned the word fearless with counsel. This dude is also fearless, right? Because you are unabashed in who you are. And I love the fact that he is not going to change. He is going to go out there and compete. And then he's going to dance and show it to his 3.9 million followers on TikTok or whatever it is after he goes and does that thing. I'm good with it. This dude, I don't know. When you and I were texting about this, I was thinking about his ability to go on the floor with Maxey because I'm worried about his size and defending big guards, right? I'm only thinking about Boston. So Boston's going to run out, Drew and Jalen and Derek White and Tatum. McCain's going to be the dude who's probably going to get picked out, right? If you're on there with Maxey. So I'm looking at that and thinking he can't necessarily physically match those dudes. He does change pace well. He is actually he's going to shoot the ball. So he's going to be a guy who I think the Sixers are going to rely on in their top 8-9 dudes to play this season, right? So I think they've got a guy. It's just a question of how he's going to complement the other existing pieces.
And like I told you when we were sort of messaging each other, Kyle Lowry was our starting point guard in the playoffs. And he's taller than Kyle, or he's the same height, but 15, 16, 17 years younger. So
yeah, the difference with Lowry's always had that, like, he's a little bit stouter, and I know he's like, even in Nova, he was matched up against like North Carolina bigs, whatever it is.
Listen, this kid he's not your average 19-year-old. He's physically already very mature. Like that's the thing about him that I'm already noticing. I'm like, wait a minute, he's 19? He doesn't physically look 19. He was barreling, going right through guys. And I feel like I saw on a post where he gave somebody a really hard time. And to me, that's who Kyle was. A miniature person who was like a bowling ball. You couldn't move him because of just like his center of gravity and his force. And I think McCain has the same kind of build. Obviously, he might not be Kyle strong now, but I think that you might have a situation where you're going to always have to shoot over top because you can't. If his feet can move fast enough where you can't just blow by him, then I think he gives himself a shot to stay on the floor with Maxey in moments. I do think there's going to more than likely they're going to stagger their minutes, but I still love that idea, right? You come in with a Maxey light. I still think he's a very good player. He's an excellent shooter, it seems, and he seems to be a high volume 3-point shooter, which is something that the NBA is all about, threes and layups. The game has changed so much where all you're doing is generating threes or generating layups. And so you need guys that are going to be willing to shoot.
I'm going to push back a little bit on that. Because we're starting to see there's a little bit of a pendulum shift here where you look at Oklahoma. We talked about Oklahoma City, right? They're going to play two bigs. They're going to play two bigs right away, right? And then I don't know what the starting lineup, like Houston's got, Şengün, who's basically a point guard who's also the center, right? Like, you've got dudes in the NBA who all of a sudden you're starting to see paired with, your more traditional 5 and a stretch 4. So that's why I'm super curious to see, who the Sixers are able to kind of fill that 4 space with, right? If let's say, I probably will be.
Daryl Morey is our general manager. You got to remember, he was.
I know the profile.
Right. And I've not seen anything from him yet that suggests that he doesn't have a very significant value on the 3-point shot making. I think that's one of the reasons that they had a challenge with dealing with Tobias Harris because of his reluctance to just pull the trigger
on
open threes. So Daryl, to me, I think it would be hard pressed that one of the final moves he makes isn't a guy that actually can play with Joel Embiid and provide spacing, even if you need rebounding, because this team does need rebounding.
Let me ask this question real quick. What do you think have you seen completely tangent, right? Have you seen any of the commercials for like Hard Knocks, the NFL Hard Knocks with the Giants? Have you seen any of those commercials?
I've watched the episode.
Okay, so you've seen the episode. All right, so you've seen, and I'm not talking about the Giants. I promise I'm gonna bring this back full circle. Let me land this plane real quick. So you see how they're talking about, like, the front office guys are like, well, we don't know what we're gonna do with Saquon Barkley, and he's a 30-some-year-old back, and blah, 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 blah. All right. What do you think the conversation in Detroit was, where they were like, we got a young team. We just fired Monty Williams. We haven't won anything since Rip Hamilton. We need Tobias Harris on a 2-year, $52 million contract. We need his leadership. We need his offensive production. I know he dropped a big 0 in the last game he played, right? But we need that guy. What do you think that conversation really was? That's what I want to see. Somebody talk to me about that.
I think that conversation is, we have to spend money. We have to get some veteran on this club. Who can we go after? Who would be willing to sign with us? And was he the only veteran signing on Detroit? I can't think of any other notable persons that went to the Pistons. Oh, they got our boy Paul Reed too.
Shout out to Paul Reed, still getting that bag.
Shout out to Paul Reed, that's my guy, man. So they picked up Paul Reed after he was waived. So it's like Sixers Mid-East, Midwest.
Listen, I'm just trying to figure out, like, how I would react. Yo, God bless, like, their marketing department for putting together a package.
That's what I'm saying. If I'm the fan base, I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Tobias? We're bringing him back?
I'm just trying to understand it.
It's like Tobias. I saw something the other day that said Tobias is the definition of mid. I think here's how I describe Tobias. Tobias is simply the difference between dunking the ball and laying it up. That's the moment where you have a dunk and you decide to do a layup, that is Tobias Harris. That's who he is. The layup is still 2 points, but the dunk can change the game. He's not a game changer. He'll give you your 2 points, but he has the opportunity to be a game changer, and he shrinks in that moment of being a game changer, and he chooses the safe shot. And that, to me, is who Tobias is. And maybe for Detroit, they needed someone safe. They needed someone who's going to be a little predictable, that they know what he's going to do, because they have these young talents where it's like these guys don't really know the game yet, and they're a little bit too free-spirited. He's like, we need a guy that we know exactly what he's going to offer us.
That sounds like they just went.
Know exactly what he's going to give you.
That sounds like they just went to Rita's and was like, yo, let me get cherry. Don't put no gelato on it, no gelati. Don't put no sprinkles on it. I don't want anything extra. Just a straight, regular cherry. I don't want Swedish fish. Yeah, I don't want Swedish fish. I don't want black cherry. No, I said regular cherry. That's it. 3 scoops. Medium cup. Move on.
I can't wait for Tobias to come into town with that Detroit team, man. Him being the leader of that squad.
Yo, do you think he gets? Wait, real quick. Do you think he gets like a TV, in-house tribute or whatever it is?
The Sixers better not do that foolishness.
Do you think it's a video tribute?
The video, they can't do that foolishness. They can't.
They might give him a headband. Tell your friend I'm a shooter.
They're not a fans feel. The fans feel the way the fans feel. Like you can do. I mean, they've done videos for people who played less time. So maybe they force themselves into it by default, just because of the precedent that has been set by this.
Speaking of less, real quick, completely random. When you said speaking of less, remember former Sixer Matisse Thybulle?
Is he still in the league?
I think he got cut from Australia. I don't know if he re-signed with anybody. He may be signed to a team, but he was trying to make their Olympic team, and I'm near certain. I don't want to misquote, so I'm near certain that brother just got cut from Australia. You're telling me There are 12 better Australians than you, Matisse? And if there are, you need to leave right now.
That's on you, brother.
Listen, I'm just saying.
That's on you, bro. That's like your inability to grow your game one iota, to learn how to put the ball on the ground, to learn how to take a jump shot, to take an open shot. I mean, that's all on you, Matisse. I'm sorry, man. And I love what he did defensively. He
did too.
So much havoc, but yet you were one-dimensional. Again, these one-dimensional players, the Sixers were just littered with one-dimensional players. They're one-trick ponies. It was a team of one-trick ponies. He had to figure out how to use them around Joel Embiid, who was working on becoming like this all-time talent, knowing he's dealing with one-trick ponies. And you can see the frustration over time. But now he's got dudes, man. He's got
come a long way, man. We've come a long way. I'm excited about the season.
But here's where my excitement could wane. And maybe I'm gonna segue into the processing piece.
Go for it.
It's twofold. But here's where my excitement could wane. We know that Kawhi Leonard was just stepped down from the Olympics, right? Today he removed himself. They added Derek White, which is causing a bit of a seemingly causing an issue with Jaylen Brown in Boston. I'm all here for nonsense. But the reason obviously Kawhi didn't play is because he missed the postseason with the Clippers, and he's focusing on what he believes his priority is, which is where he makes his money, where he earns a living.
Yeah.
At what point should Joel Embiid consider something similar? Now, granted, I want him to be all in those rooms, in every huddle, in every meeting, every game time to play with those kinds of grace. I need you to soak all of that in and bring it back to Philadelphia. However, I need working knees. I need you to bring working knees back with you. And what I've observed from him in these scrimmages is a player who's not right. That's what I'm seeing. A player who does not look right. And
it's all right now, isn't it?
Oh, you're right. If this is what we're going to get at the beginning of the season, then I don't have the same kind of confidence about what we're going to look like at the end of the year. I just don't. There's nothing that would give it to me based off of, again, what he is not able to do. Like, we've been there before. So if Kawhi can step down, I just wonder if there's at least a situation where Joel decides I'm only going 10 minutes a game or 50. Like his minutes are just down, so he could just stay with the team as opposed to just like playing. Because I'm concerned, man. He don't look right already. Season doesn't even start till October. He doesn't look right now.
So as a Sixers fan, I agree with you. Like, I want this dude wrapped in whatever the cryogenics / blood transfusion, whatever you need to do to be like, yo, we are hitting the ground running with this new squad. This is our best team we've maybe ever had around you. So I agree with you as a Sixers fan. And so I don't know, but I'm actually really excited for him to be in the Olympics. We spoke about this previously, and again, I'm speaking as a Sixers fan. I want him healthy. I don't want him limping. If he needs to recover, if he needs to drop weight, if he needs to get more ingratiated with his teammates, do all of that, right? Prioritize that. As a citizen of this country, however, which I ain't got no plans on leaving, right? He was born elsewhere. He has multiple opportunities to play for France and Cameroon and wherever else, and now he's here. He chose to come to this country. He chose to have a son here. He is raising a family. He has a family here with his son, the mother of his child. This is literally what this country was founded on. He is that ideal. And so if this dude feels like, hey, I'm going to come to this country that I love so much to become a citizen, to go through the process, which we have established is the way in which you become the same rights that you and I have, right? He's now through that. He's got a son here who's part of that, and he wants to play with those colors. I'm not going to knock. I think that's fantastic. Now, as a Sixers fan, yo, sit down. But as an American, as a person who just loves this country and what the Olympics are supposed to represent, which I do want to talk about in a second, I think this is the right thing. I think it's the right thing.
Yeah. I think it's the right thing too. I just think that they need to manage his minutes appropriately so that he is in he's good to go, in my opinion. So that's my thing. So I guess I'm just putting on the coaching staff. You know, as much as the Olympics wants to separate themselves from the NBA, they're not separate from the NBA. And so I think all of that matters. They're all going to be on the same page in terms of how all of these players are managed. Because I don't think you're going to be in a situation where organizations get screwed because of their players' participation, how the coach used them in the playoffs. You know, so or I'm sorry, in the Olympics.
Yeah.
But
so go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, please. You got it.
Well, so kind of to the processing point, right? The Olympics are starting. The USA is playing Canada right now. They are up by 2 in the second quarter. There was an article I sent you a couple of weeks ago about the U.S. women's national team. They had picked their Olympic team, and there was a lot of conversation around kind of the makeup of this group and some of the personalities. They've been very outspoken supportive of LGBTQIA+ communities. They also were apparently some members were getting supposed derision from online communities because of like their devout Christian positions, whatever that might mean. And so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, all right, well, because of how polarized our country is, and not just ours, but you see what's going on in other countries as well. Do the Olympics still hold, when you see like red, white, and blue, when you see USA on a jersey, there used to be a time where I just would just straight up represent without even thinking about like, yo, this is my country, this is my team, these are my players. I don't care if it's curling, I don't care if it's trampolining, I'm in. Do you still feel the same way? Does it still have the same weight? Or has any of the polarization or any of the conversation around athletes in politics or their political views as they relate to yours, has that diminished the way you see and your fervor for the Olympics?
No. So I will say that I'm still pretty much red, white, blue, right? Like the Olympics still feel the same to me in that regards, where it's the opinions of the players, the issues have not. You know what's really interesting? A lot of the conversation that you're referring to happens before and after the Olympics, right? Like during the Olympics, they're just focused on the main thing.
The Olympics,
maybe for
right.
me, that's maybe when I tune in, right? So even though, to your point, when it came down to the controversial decision of the women's Olympic Committee in not selecting the Caitlin Clark, right?
Right.
And they were saying, well, wait a minute, it's not our job to grow the game. You know, what our job is simply to ensure that we remain dominant. You know, that we don't let the world feel that they can close the gap. You know, that we just hammer the nail, because obviously, similar to the whole Bronny James Jr., what's that one spot going to change in terms of the Lakers' opportunities, period, right? And so theoretically, you can look at Caitlin Clark the same way and say, what's that one roster spot going to change in terms of what the women's team can achieve in the Olympics? You don't usually play 12 deep, you know, so but at the same time, you also recognize, for me, it took me a while to get it in terms of their decision, but I do get it. And I'll say this much, and I'll go on record as saying it. At first, I really thought that it's not that I think or didn't think. There's an argument that there is a missed opportunity in terms of marketing, right? Now, granted, I think that they've made a decision maybe to put her on the select team, maybe. Is that what's happening, Caitlin, or is she still not on the team at all? If she's still not on, okay, so she's still, if she's not on the team, I think that yes, marketing, there was an opportunity. There are people that Caitlin Clark will draw in terms of viewership if she's just on the team, regardless of whether or not she plays, because people are going to watch the game even to see if she plays. So that, I think, is a real thing. I didn't love what I was hearing in terms of the explanation, saying they don't know really how to deal with a fan base that might be disgruntled that she's not playing. Who cares? Like that, to me, the fact, like, well, I don't understand why that would even be a concern.
But you see, that's part of the conversation I'm having right now, because we're talking about a fan base that is disgruntled and therefore may not watch the Olympics. Does our conversation, socially, politically, does it intersect in a way that actually I still love this country. My family has served in this country. I aspire to serve in some capacity for this country, right? Does so red, white, blue is obviously me my first, foremost, and only. However, does it change the way in which you might cheer for or your passion for it? And so when you talk about disgruntled communities, they may not watch because she's not on it. Maybe you don't watch because you're not a Biden fan, or you're not a Trump fan, or you're not a fan of what's going on politically with some of the conversation around certain social issues, right? Does it change that for you? Because I think the Olympics used to matter in such a way for me when I grew up watching, like, I was checking the medal counts in the newspapers and online, for God's sakes. I was staying up and watching clips of things that were way past my bedtime. Now it's like, oh, all right, when does, swimming come on? Who's the big name person? Is Ledecky cool? I'll see her. But I don't follow it the same way. And I don't know why. I don't know why that is. I'm just trying to understand, like, the Olympics are the biggest sporting event, maybe next to the World Cup and the Super Bowl, right? Certainly internationally. And, I'll turn it on, I guess. It's cool.
I think the issue for me is the fact, or not the issue, one of the things that I think is true is that for the women's basketball specifically, the Caitlin Clark fans that won't watch didn't watch them before. Right? Like those fans that are watching now because of Caitlin Clark probably weren't watching the WNBA before. So I don't think that the women's games are going to lose viewership. They're just not going to gain viewership. If that makes any sense in terms of the Caitlin Clark component. Yeah, so I think but I do hear you in terms of just like the division right now within our nation. Like how does, like, it's so fascinating because it's every 4 years. So is this what happens every Olympics, where it's like going into the presidential election, the year of the presidential election? So it's always like, blue and red and everything, and then all of a sudden we kumbaya for the Olympics, and then we go back into our separate teams and do our thing. This year does feel a little different. Yeah, this year does feel a little different. So I am curious to see what the viewership numbers are for the Olympics. What teams are heavily watched by citizens. I actually will look at the data this year because I think there might be a story behind what you're talking about in terms of how people feel about patriotism, because that's what this is all coming down to, right? It's like, if you feel that your country is not effectively representing you, then are you bought in terms of the representatives of your country elsewhere? Maybe you are, maybe you're not. So
I would love to see, you talk about data. I would love to see the demographic people who own and put out flags on their porch, on their stoop, on their door, wherever. I would love to see what the demographics look like, because I don't know too many folks who. Go ahead. You're gonna say?
No, say it again. You say, I don't know too many folks who.
I don't know too many folks who look like you or I that have flags hanging from their porch or from their truck or from their backyard or whatever it is. And I'm curious, like, I don't love the country less than you. Like, I'm just curious why that is. There's clearly a reason, and there's clearly like a difference in what motivates you. Is it the same motivation that's going to be in the Olympics? Is it going to be the same motivation that causes you to cheer and be outspoken for a particular team or sport during the Olympics? Is it the same motivation that aspires you to vote for a particular candidate or hang a flag in your front yard? Who knows? But I'm curious, like, what does the representation mean for you, and what is affecting that representation? That's what I'm so curious about.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. So, no, that's interesting. Processing. I'm gonna keep it basketball, man. I'm gonna stay sort of in the lane, since you kind of took it to the Olympics and made sort of the create the conversation around, how do we deal with our own opinions in terms of political views, and put that up against even the like you said, the women's team in itself seems to create controversy, right? Like, just in terms of the assembling of the team, when it's like, hey, we just took our 12 best. We've done it every 4 years. I don't get it. Well, why? This is nothing different. And here's why I'll give them credit. Unlike the men's team, the women have been so dominant. Put it like this. Unlike the men's team, the top 12 women in the world are probably United States citizens, unlike the men's team. So the fact that the best of the best are also from this country is the argument as to why you gotta select the best. You can't just select an other when you got the dogs all right here.
Asia Wilson had 20 plus points and 20 rebounds the other night. Like, she's a beast. I can't wait to watch her do anything.
Come on,
like,
man.
she's an absolute problem.
Like,
Brianna Stewart is absolutely.
They are so much better than the rest of the world that you need to reward the best by giving them an opportunity to represent the country. And
the other thing about it,
that, and you can't just give her the spot.
We started this whole conversation talking about fairness, right? The notion that in a hyper-competitive environment, which you've got a pool of candidates who are all at the top 2-3% of the world, right, at their particular craft, you're going to be, not that Caitlin Clark is not good and exceptional and doesn't deserve there at some point in time. She just doesn't deserve it maybe right now, right? So we're going to say fairness is we're going to go beyond this group of 12, right? Because we're not even talking about 12 guards. We're talking about 4 guards, right? And saying, is she one of the best 4 guards or 5 or whatever the team, I don't know how the team's constituted right now, and put her above that. Now, if you really wanted to like split hairs, when I looked at that roster, the one person I was like, oh, Diana? Listen, and I'm going to say that back here because I feel like she might try to stab me if I ever ran into her. But like, yo, is she really still one of them?
Right. There's your argument. Like the argument.
That's the only argument you got.
But again, the fact that Diana, knowing that this is sort of like her swan song, and she's arguably the GOAT, one of the GOATs of the game, and she's still competitive, I see why you defer to her. Like, if anyone, it's almost like LeBron. If anyone who has earned it, she's earned it with her resume where she gets the spot. Caitlin Clark has not achieved that. So I think if you were just to do it purely off their numbers, then Caitlin Clark, I think, has a better season average than Diana Taurasi.
Sure, right.
However, I think her career has afforded her an opportunity to get that selection in this particular Olympics, knowing that this will be her last. This will be the last. You know,
her experience in the moment. Her experience in the moment matters, and that's
even
not.
Even if they don't need that experience because they're just so much better than everybody else.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now.
That's still a part of it.
Brianna Stewart would be the best 4 on our team right now. She'd be the best. She'd be the player. She'd be a stretch 4 that could go out and chase guys on the perimeter while Embiid just drops in the coverage and manages the paint. She'd be perfect right now.
So here's what I'm processing. As much as I love what the Sixers have done, and when I say love, I mean I love what this team is. Here's what I'm processing. As a die-hard Sixers fan, it is really hard for me to have disdain for the New York Knicks. I am personally challenged in terms of what my fandom will feel like when the season starts, knowing I don't have animosity for a team we lost to in the playoff. Not only are they the New York Knicks, but they took us out of the postseason last year. And with the addition of Mikal Bridges, I'm just like, I like the team. I like Villanova. We're Philadelphia. I went to Westchester. Villanova's right up the street. We share Route 30. So the idea that I'm like, I can't help feel a connection to these young players that I've watched grow and represent us as they beat up the big boys to win a championship. It wasn't no soft championship. They beat North Carolina that was ready to go. And then in the next year, it was not even a contest. They just ran through the tournament. It's like, wow, that team is just that they are them. So for that team to now be assembled in New York City, I am processing what it's going to feel like for me watching the Knicks, knowing I don't hate that team. How do I even see? Here's the part that's really I'm struggling with because I believe they're going to have a brand of basketball that I'm going to actually enjoy. So that's even another part. So it's not simply the personnel that I'm like, hey, those are my guys, but they're also going to play a brand of basketball that's like, I like that kind of style of basketball. What am I supposed to do? What I got a son. I need to teach him to play the right way. At some point, maybe a Knicks game is something that he watches and observes in terms of me pointing out certain things, in terms of their connectedness on defense, the way they communicate, their ball movement, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just realizing I'm going to potentially be torn going into the season. Now, let the record be straight. If the Knicks and the Sixers play each other, I'm rooting for the Sixers. Make no mistakes about it. All I am saying is that if the Knicks are not playing the Sixers, I will watch the game with. I'll watch the game. I will watch the game. I don't think I'll ever root for the Knicks, but I don't think I'll be upset if the Knicks win games. Put it that way. I don't think I'll be I don't think I will root for the Knicks. The only scenario where I feel like I can root for the Knicks is if the Sixers somehow are eliminated and the Knicks are going against Boston. I hate Boston, so that's a scenario where I'll be pulling for the Knicks.
Okay, so you're processing feelings around your Villanova, New York Knicks style of basketball, connection to the city, the passion in which they're going to play with. Okay, did you watch Batman: The Dark Knight? That's the one with the Joker in it. All right.
Yes.
Not the Joker. I'm sorry, not the Joker. Not that one. I'm sorry. The one where Bane. The one where Bane.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember that scene where Bane shows up at it was like a Gotham Knights football game, basically, and a dude runs the ball back and the whole field collapses? When the Sixers lose in the playoffs, that's exactly how I feel about everybody else. And I don't care who you are and where you're from. I don't care about anybody else. I hope the floor collapses. My children will ask me, Dad, who do you want to win? You know what? I like a good game, but if not, I want them both to lose. Like, I don't ever want that. I am petty and I'm small. Listen, Rashad Bryant, one of the greatest Philadelphia basketball players ever. He's one of the greatest players ever. He was not a Philadelphia dude to me until he retired. Then I can go back and claim him again, right? Like, I had strong feelings about a dude who was actively trying to kill a Philadelphia team. And that's what the Knicks will try to do.
You know what's crazy about that? I also, and I'll say this on wax, in his 20-year career, I watched Kobe when he was number 8, and the fact that he wanted to cut our hearts out, like that was what he said. He wanted to cut our hearts out. I felt that. And so it was hard to root for him in the number 8 because the number 8 just represented that, like, it was funny because it was like pre-Mamba. Like, number 8 was pre-Mamba, but he had the Mamba for us. It's like he unleashed the Mamba for the Sixers in a way that, like,
listen, let me tell you what. I ain't go. Listen, Sam, let me tell you. Listen, I ain't go to the 8th floor, no buildings. I ain't buy no Mambas. I ain't go to Lower Marion. Let me just say, like, I still won't do it. And I respect and know, God rest his soul, what he's done for the game, generationally, he's incredible. All of that's true. The only moment I had a little bit of like respite with my hate, and I know we're off track a little bit, but when the Eagles won the Super Bowl and he was like in his home cheering for them. And I was like, I was even mixed up about that. I was like, yo, who told this boy he could rock for the Eagles? I was a little mixed up over that too.
I will admit, I turned the corner with him much sooner in his actual playing career. When he went to 24, I no longer, because when he went to 24, what I was realizing is that he was the most complete basketball player in the game. And so I found myself always watching his games because the way he played was different than everybody else. He was just too fundamentally sound, and he had some pizzazz to him. Everyone else was just like more pizzazz, but no fundamentals. And like he was the one guy that was complete. So that was what I really loved about watching him play. And it got to the point where it's like, I can't hate on him. Once he changed numbers, I just didn't see him the same way. So like he wasn't the killer, the Sixers killer anymore. He was just this elite, one of the best in the game, number 24. Like that number changed it for me in a real way where I could appreciate the next 10 years of his whole career. I think if he stayed number 8, I would have held on to something a little bit longer.
It's hard for me. And so the only way, and I get you, and I feel you, I'm struggling with this a little bit because if the Giant, I'm a Penn State graduate, right? If the and they drafted Ron Barkley, if the Giants were really good, probably would have had a harder time with him now coming to the Eagles, right? I'm excited for him because he never really did anything that was of consequence when he was there with the Giants, right? If he was with Dallas, it probably would have been an absolute no chance. I don't want this dude here at all. I don't care about that, right?
I agree.
It would have been a dramatic difference for him, right? I could have lived with Jalen Brunson going to New York and Bridges and Hart and DiVincenzo, all that other stuff, and still felt the way I did for them after they won those 2 championships, even while they were at Villanova, if they didn't have the playoffs against us last year. I'm going to have a harder time rooting for them. I definitely don't care about them. I want them to do well. I don't want them to flex into the field, but I definitely I would have had they not beaten us last year in the postseason. So that's also look great. I'm gonna love the fact that they're successful. I'm happy that the fact that you got these friends, these teammates, this relationship, and go up and emulate with camaraderie. We're trying, and so I care. So process. I guess I have to process that. I've already processed those feelings.
Nah, I hear you. And again, I'm not even the fact that they eliminated us last year, I don't harbor the feelings because we weren't if Joel was healthy, they don't have a shot. Like that's the thing. I still think we're better than them. So I feel like this year, the reason I'll be torn is I think that playing them will make us better, and they won't be able to beat us in the series. That's just how I feel. Now, I do think they may end up with more regular season wins than we have. I think that's a possibility because Tibbs is going to play his players 40 minutes a game. I think we're going to take, we're going to rest guys appropriately because we have our eye on the prize. So I think that the Knicks, they're going to go all out throughout the regular season. So I think that if they end up with a better record than the Sixers, I'm okay there. But I don't see them beating us in the series. And I think the Sixers will improve. Oh, we lost Malik for a second. But I think the Sixers will improve just by default, just because we're playing against the New York Knicks. So, look, folks, I thought we had a really great show. Malik unfortunately had to drop, but as you know, and as we stated, this is going to be our struggle stream for the day. But as of right now, I just want to say thank you for joining us with another episode of the podcast. Again, if you enjoyed the content, bringing them back on. Let's see what we got here. There we go.
Sorry, man. The struggle stream is real.
It's all good. No, listen, I think we're gonna wrap up right about now. But we both were able to get that out. Like I said, I think that the Knicks, because of their style of play, the Sixers are going to be able to gain something from every experience they have with them. But I do believe that they're more talented than the Knicks and will prevail in a series. I think the way the Knicks beat us last year, they're not going to be able to beat us this year when you have a Caleb Barton on the team, when you're going to get Ricky Council minutes on the team, when you have Andre Drummond who can go out there and bang. The fact that they don't have Hartenstein anymore is a huge loss for that team. So to me, the Sixers are better, but I think that they will gain a lot from playing against the Knicks because the Knicks are going to play a certain way. Yep.
If you get a chance, when the Premier League or one of the major, like soccer is in tournament mode right now, it's not in like this regular season, right? So if you get a chance, Premier League or one of the major League One or Serie A, whatever, whenever you see a player of a particular like level or reputation, regard, or whatever it is, and he goes to a new team and he scores against the new team, his goal celebration is usually much more muted, right? So like, for example, Ronaldo used to be on, I don't know, Real Madrid or whatever it is, or Manchester United. If he were to play against those teams after he's moved on and he scores a goal. It's usually just a quick acknowledgement, maybe one of these. He's not out there running and fist pumping and doing all this stuff. The reason why I can't get with these dudes is because the minute Josh Hart grabs the rebound over top somebody, he's going to try to flex on Broad Street. And I'm not for it. I'm not for it, right? I don't want to see it. Like, you need to.
That's what you got to love about it. You know why, though, but you know why he's going to do that here. Because they're homegrown.
Listen, no.
They're homegrown.
No. You know better than that. You need to respect the fact that
that's what we love about them.
No,
they can't turn it off now. They got to be. We wanted them to be this way, and this is who they are.
I wanted them to be with this that way when they were playing Villanova. If they came to the Sixers, not against the Sixers. No, I don't want anybody cutting our hearts out.
I need all of it.
I want you.
I need all of it.
Nope.
I need all of it. I'm not. Remember, perspective, right? If you have the perspective that everything is working in your best interest, that even in the loss, the full focus should be, okay, what is it that I need to improve, right? Like, what's the lesson? And I think for the Knicks, I just see them as a test. The Knicks to me are a test that we get to take 4 times next year. And I look forward to that exam in a way that I've never looked forward to them having an exam against any other team. But with that team, I'm all for it. And I want the Knicks to be the best versions of themselves when they play the Sixers, because I think it will benefit the Sixers long term.
I agree. Just be gracious. That's all. Or I'm gonna punch you in your chest when I see you.
But you know they're not. Because they're carrying that New York moxie now. Like, man. I'm telling you, that team is going to.
I hear you. I get your point.
They're going to get under your skin, but that's what's going to make it so much more rewarding when we put the hammer down on them.
I hear your point.
We're going to feel all of the feeling of, that was significant. That was substantive. Like, that wasn't just the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Orlando Magic we beat. Like, those games will matter and be meaningful. And that's why I appreciate the fact that we know Josh Hart is going to be Josh Hart out there.
Listen, when Reese Hoskins came back and he hit a home run, he put his head down and he ran the bases. He didn't bat spike. He didn't gesture to the crowd. Head down, ran the bases. That's all. That's all I'm asking you. Put your head down and run the bases. That's it.
That's because he played for this team. Josh Hart did. Those guys did not play for the Sixers.
They played in that building.
They didn't even play in Philadelphia. They played in Villanova.
Listen, they played all I'm saying in that building.
Be the best version of yourselves. It's too personal. It's too personal for them to be humble. You know what I mean? Like they gotta bring their swag when they're playing in Philadelphia, because they're hearing all the fans. That's what I'm saying. So that's why it's like I respect it. Because unlike other cities, they won't even be able to get away with a humble brag here, man. Like if they don't have that edge, then it's not going to work for them. So I think they have to even be over the top when they're playing in Philadelphia, because it's needed. And I'm here all for it, bro.
Sam, you sound a little too Knicks friendly for me right now. I'm not gonna lie to you, dog.
Because I think it's the best way the Sixers can ensure that they doing what is necessary to win a championship. There's going to be no greater test outside of the Celtics than the Knicks, in my opinion.
No, the greatest test is the greatest test is health. That's the greatest test for the Sixers. Health. That's it. Because if
that's not it. Because it's also Hart. Now, granted, they got Hart guys now, right? Like that.
They got Hart guys. I'm good with that.
When Josh Hart averaged 14 rebounds a game at 6'5", it wasn't about scheme.
Listen,
it wasn't even about health. Because Joel Embiid is not absorbing all those rebounds. You needed someone else who was going to be able to do it. And unfortunately, we had Tobias Harris on the roster, and he was not battling for those boards in that degree. Hey, man, look out for that. Guys that are going to get them rebounds, man.
Listen, look out for that. Look out for that humble brag. Look out for that tribute video coming to a center near Wells Fargo Center near you,
brother. Let me ask you something. Is he going to have his head down?
Listen, if Tobias better keep his head down if he knows what's safe for him. Tobias is going to hit a 3 and go crazy on the thing. Are you serious? Please.
Man, listen. Bro, we are an hour and a half in the show, so I think on that note, we're talking about Tobias Harris's return and how he's about to give the Sixers 50 points. I think we need to go ahead and call it a show. You know, I think if there's any sign, that was a sign. He's gonna come in with his $25 million and give us every cent that game. He's going.
Ain't no question. He's gonna put that
I
work
hope
in.
he comes in with the biggest edge, ultra aggressive, and gives the Sixers everything what we asked him for. I hope he gives it to the Sixers on the 3 or 4 nights he comes into town. So
he's gonna try.
He is. Well, folks, that is tonight's show. Again, thank you for joining us for another episode. If you enjoyed the content, please make sure you hit the like button on the way out. And then again, if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe today. We are here. We may start doing a bi-weekly summer episode. We'll stay tuned for that. Right now, it's Wednesday nights at 10 o'clock. But depending on the activity, we may do every other week until maybe mini camp starts off with football, which is right around the corner. We just have the month of August. The Phillies are red hot. We touched on the Phillies because we can't leave them alone. But on our next show, we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive into the best team in baseball. Tonight, they beat the LA Dodgers 4-3 and are the first team to 60 wins on the season. Again, got it done without our big boy, Bryce Harper, not in the lineup, but they find a way to keeping it on, man. This team is legit, and I think they'll be there at the end. And so, talking about the end, we are at the end of tonight's show. So, until next time, folks, peace.